Welcome to the Rialto Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a revenue acceleration series interview where we talk to seven-figure B2B service firm owners who are actively trying to grow their business and get to the next level. We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly so that you can learn from their experience. Hi, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe you must remove your revenue roadblocks to accelerate growth, and marketing shouldn't be difficult. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I am super excited to have with me Philip Porch from Toller Systems. Philip, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. So I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions to get things started. Are you ready to jump in with both feet?
Let's do it.
Okay. So very quickly, what do you do? How long have you been doing it?
So I'm the integrator at Toller. I've been doing that role since 2012. I've had different titles doing that, but basically that means that I align the vision of our founder into our marketing, our sales, and our operations. So I've been here since we've had just two of us back in 2012 up to now. We have 16 team members. And so my role has shifted throughout that. But at the end of the day, I'm the one that helps bring the pieces together in the glue to make sure that customer experience is good, our team is well taken care of, and that we're all rowing in the same direction.
I love it. What's the most important thing you've learned in doing that?
I think that we talk about this a lot, that we don't run a technology company. We run a communication and expectation setting business that happens to deliver technology. So I think the thing that we've learned in our years together is that the importance of having the right people on your team, that they're in the right seat, they have the right fit, they have the capacity to do it. And I'll talk about this a little bit later, but we started implementing EOS in the last 6 months. And so it's just given a lot of clarity on what does a successful team member look like and what resources do we need to give them. But I think looking back, it's really the element of people. If you have the right people, you have the right culture, it's a lot easier. And even if you have the right customers too, if you have the wrong fit customer, it's very frustrating. And so we've just had to learn to say no to opportunities and help transition people out to other roles. But people, I'd say that the focus of people is the most important lesson we've learned.
I love it. Well, we all know growing a business can be hard and can be challenging. When you come up against those roadblocks that you got to push through, do you have any kind of mantra that you say to yourself or share with your team to get through those times?
Yeah. So one of our core values is actually grit. And it's this idea of being able to push through and overcome the obstacle. And so in my own life, I've realized that the things that have had the greatest reward in return were a risk, and it took effort to make that work.
Yeah.
And so I just think about, if I push today and I make that phone call, or if I follow up with that prospect, it's allowing me to fulfill the future that I want. And it's allowing to fulfill the future for our team as well. And so that's where we have to push through the hard things.
Yeah.
And I think if owning a business was easy, then a lot of people would do it.
Yeah.
But not many people do it,
No.
and even, I know this is supposed to be rapid fire, but I'm kind of
It's
a
okay.
dialogue person. I left corporate America in 2012 to go work with Lance, part-time, actually, not even a full-time role. And so, we made that commitment then to grow a business and to create something. If you own a business, you own a process. If you're tied to your business, it only runs when you're doing the work. You're just self-employed. And so we've tried really hard to create that life experience for us and for our team members as well.
Awesome. Now, I know in the pre-interview when we connected, you had mentioned that your MSP offering you call Complete Care. Can you share more about just what's included in that, and why did you choose to brand the offering?
Yeah. So let me answer the why and then the what.
Cool.
So in 2012, our company had been operating since 1999, and they had primarily provided one-off integration services, usually to larger enterprise customers. And so when we really wanted to enter into the managed service space, we wanted to come up with a phrasing and a vision of something that we felt businesses needed in our market. We were the first ones to bring this to our market. And so we came up with Complete Care. And so the idea of that is that you have a holistic, complete package around technology for the business. And we believe that that should align with the company's goals and their strategy. and it should also align with where they want to go as an organization. So technology should feed those and be in support, not we have technology that sits over here and everything else is separate from that.
Yeah.
So complete care, you've probably people are familiar with most managed service offerings. I think one thing that's really unique about our offering is that everything we do starts more from a consultative standpoint, and that comes through the lens of a VCIO that's assigned to every organization. So Lance, my business partner, has more of a technology background, enterprise background. I'm more of a business process person. And so with that, we've been able to develop our VCIOs and our process of how we consult around those two perspectives, not just, okay, let me give you a lot of technical details, acronyms you may not understand, and you just should do it, right? We communicate it in different ways. So the VCIO is assigned to every account. And then another part that's unique to us is that we have an alignment process where we've written about 270 questions around technology and business processes. And our goal is to align our companies to all of those over time, and we score them. So, as a part of our reviews with our customers, we're saying, okay, here's our progress on your journey of alignment with technology. And that alignment should reduce risk, should create efficiencies, and should allow them to be more successful as a business. So, our process is very kind of systematic in
Mhm.
what we're trying to reach there. And then at the same time, we also have support, having that great support experiences when things don't go right. And then also we have a professional services team that implements new solutions or is doing that technology alignment to get them to where they need to go. So that's our complete care kind of package in a
Yeah.
nutshell. But I think a main differentiator for us is really taking the time and having the margin to really understand the businesses deeply. And so when we're on vendor calls or we're on strategy calls with the customer, we don't even use our company name. We just say, hey, we're a part of XYZ company, and this is our goals and this is our purpose. And so we just love that depth of relationship and completeness with our customers.
Do you find that branding that service offering helps differentiate you from other competitors?
I think it does. I think the main differentiator, though, is really our business focus first.
Yeah.
And maybe not the name as much, right? Because a name is just a name, and like we're in a peer group, and uh, there's one of our companies that their package is called Dynamic Care Complete. So there's other people that have similar naming, right? But it's all
Yeah.
about how when we first meet with a company, we want to identify their goals as a business. We analyze what stage of development their business is in through a model called Predictable Success. It's a book
Yeah.
written by Les McEwen. And so we analyze, okay, we found that for a business to work well within complete care, they need to be between um, whitewater and treadmill. So that's the upper segment of that bell curve. And if they're not in those stages, we'll tell them, hey, we don't really think we're a good fit for what you need. Right. So just before this call, I was meeting with a smaller organization, and they're kind of winding down. They're not as growth oriented and more towards the latter half of that bell curve. And so I said, hey, I don't really know if you need what we provide. Let me give you some other options or some other perspectives on what you're trying to accomplish. And so I think having that perspective and coming in with that consultative approach, I think some technology service providers try to come in so hard with the technology. And this is the bits and the wits, and this is what you should do. And we're just not about that at all. And we really try to understand where they're going and challenge them in their logic and their strategy in a healthy way, right? Not
Yeah.
arguing, but just saying, okay, if this is the most important thing for you, why are we doing this, right? So I think it has helped us in that, but I think it's really more of that mindset and approach. Another one of our core values, which actually just adjusted as a part of EOS, is being humbly confident, which means we know what we know, but we're going to come with humility and seeking to understand first that customer and their needs before we're dumping that on them. We're
Yeah.
not walking into that conversation trying to assert, well, I know everything, and you should just listen to me because I've been doing this for all these years. You have to build that trust over time. You can't buy trust, you have to develop it. And so those
Yeah.
are some things that we've done to in that sales process and in our model that I think has helped contribute to our success.
So you touched on this a little bit. I want to dig into this a little bit more. Is one of your main differentiators is that you guys are looking through that lens of the business just as much as the lens of technology. What have you found are the benefits of approaching it this way?
Yeah. I think it's that we have a better understanding of where the business is going, and we can come back with more complete solutions. And in cases of, I find that we get into a lot of conversations with our customers about workflow and how the technology needs to work, and saying, okay, your tool can't do that exactly, let's add that to the wish list, or what's a workaround around that. So for instance, one of our companies, one of their team members is moving out of state to work virtually. It's the first time they've ever done this role virtually. So as their VCIO, I sat down with them for an hour just to talk through, hey, tell me about your workflow. How do you do this now? How do you approve checks, and how does this work? And so I think by taking the time to understand the business processes and the business needs, then we could recommend the correct technology for that move.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, well, if we're going all paperless, I don't think you need a printer and a scanner at your house across the country, and so I think that really helps us understand that. And I think just being able to, one of our mantras as well is that we're not going to recommend anything to a customer that we don't think they need. So we're not going to come in, and there's times when we'll tell the customer, hey, we could charge you a lot of money to do this route, and you could do that, but that's not really what you need. So we don't recommend that. And I think just being intentional to, at times, give a counter perspective that the client may not even expect.
Yeah.
Okay, why do we need to spend $3,000 on a printer for your house when one that's 500 would do the same job? Why do we need to do that? And
Yeah.
so I think it's just, it all goes back to that trust. And I think by understanding that, then, even asking questions around expansion. Okay, how long are we going to be in this location? Are we buying the building? Are you leasing it? What do we need to do here? And so I think helping answer those questions for them just helps us to move more quickly as our customers grow, and
Yeah.
they expand. And I think one thing that we've intentionally tried to look for in the customers that we bring on is that they're in a growth stage. So some indicators of that is that they want to have a plan and a vision to grow. They want to delegate their technology, and they're willing to invest a reasonable amount to get there.
Yeah.
So there's some cases where you'll find a company that's growing, but maybe they don't want to delegate their technology, or they want to spend as least as possible. So we try to find this kind of beautiful mix of those components. And usually we find when they're in that right stage of business growth and they have that same belief value,
Yeah.
the same values, then it works really well. And we try to be the best we can in our sales process, to identify those things and make sure we're in
Yeah.
alignment. And then when it's not a fit, we try to help, um, coach them maybe to a different solution, and those
Yeah.
things. And one of the things in my current role now is, an intentional focus is adding more of those customers that are right fit. And we'll talk about that later, what that strategy looks like. But that's a main focus for me right now is, adding those right fit customers.
Yeah. I love, I want to pull a few things out here because
Yeah.
there's a ton of value there. You guys have, it sounds like you guys have a pretty well defined, framework or ideal client profile, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
I tend to call it an ideal client profile, but an
Yeah.
understanding of what your ideal clients look like. They're in
Hmm.
they're in growth mode. These are some of the philosophies that they have, the things that they think about, and there are huge benefits in that. And you touched on them, and I think they're easy for people to miss. It's like when you have sales conversations with people, you're using that as a guide. And are they
Hmm.
checking enough of these boxes? And if they're not checking enough of these boxes, then they're not a good fit. And you guys are confident enough. You also want what is best for the potential client. And you
Hmm.
know that if they don't check enough of those boxes, they're not going to be a good fit. And that's not a good fit for them. And it's not a good fit for you. And it doesn't serve either of you in the long term. And that is one of the huge reasons why having your ideal clients really clearly identified is so important, because it helps you guys with your marketing. It helps you with your sales process and make sure that you're bringing on people that are a right fit.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah. It's almost just as important of what you say no to than what you say yes
Yes,
to.
yes,
Um,
exactly.
I have, we build intentional relationships with people in our, region that have similar customers. And so sometimes they'll bring me a lead, or they'll say, hey, I've got this subset of, industry that you should really go after.
Yeah,
So as we look into it, we say, we could, but that doesn't really fit those factors.
Yeah.
And even in our conversations, we say, the worst case scenario, this is what I tell people, the worst case scenario is that I'm a slick salesman and you like me and you believe in what we're doing, but you don't really have the same belief system.
Yeah.
And you make this initial investment with us and you believe that you spend this money with us and it's going to have these great outcomes and growth for your business. And there will be some impacts to that. But at the end of the day, you don't really have the belief system and you
Yeah.
don't really want to grow and you're not really, that's not really your focus. Then we're going to get 6 months or a year into this and you're going to say, hey, this isn't what we want.
Yeah.
Can we had one company that said, can you take us back to paper based? No, it's not really something we do. I'll let you out, but I don't take companies back to paper processes. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's an important thing. And as anyone that's in sales or trying to grow an organization, sometimes it seems counterintuitive to say, hey, this is someone in front of me that wants to buy, and they have some resources or they have pain, and to have enough confidence in your process and your vision and the outcomes that you want to create for your companies, and even the ones that have committed to you already, right? To have the boldness to say, no, like I'm not the best fit for you, and let me help you find
Yeah.
something different. Because when you bring on a non-right fit customer, it not only impacts their business negatively, but it also impacts your team members.
Yep.
And they say, man,
Absolutely.
why do we bring these guys on? This is our standard. This is what we always do, but they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
We have to argue every time or whatever. So yeah, it's counterintuitive, but it is an important part of our growth, and helping those companies grow is an important part.
Yeah. No, I know that you guys have plans to grow outside of your current local market. And when we connected before the interview, one of the things that you mentioned that you guys were going to focus on to accomplish that was focusing on specific industry verticals.
Mhm.
Um, why why are you thinking that's the way to do it? What are your thoughts behind that?
Yeah. So the town that we're in right now is Abilene in Texas,
Okay.
and it's about 150,000 people, and we have a great client base. We've had some great growth. We have a lot of companies that have headquarters here, or in some cases, there's a site here that we support, but we support the whole organization. But our vision to grow, at times you sometimes have to look out your existing market. So one of our focus is legal, legal firms. Well, in our market and within, 100 miles or so, we have all of those ideal right fit customer law firms, right?
Yeah.
There's no other ones to get, right? Or finance is another focus for us. So CPA firms and people that support the financial process. Once you have captured those ones that you would want to get, you have to, either decide to change your focuses and be a little more wide offering of what you're supporting, or spread the net of where your focus area is.
Yeah.
And then the final is energy. So that can be around manufacturing, it can be around oil production, it can be around wind energy, just all the different facets. It's pretty neat in our businesses that we support now. We can map the energy procurement process all the way from the people that are doing the geological research, to
Yeah.
see if that resource is available, through the landmen, through the acquisition, through the drilling, the pumping, through the service companies, through the back office billing departments. So we have companies that are doing this whole life cycle of energy, and so that we like that one. And but again, for ideal customer profile, sometimes the energy market can be volatile, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's important to diversify with other markets. But yeah, those are our three major focuses right now. And again, it's not that if someone comes to us that isn't one of those three, we say hard no.
Right.
If they have the right growth focus and their team is at a certain stage, we will interact with them and see if that's a good fit. Maybe it's a nonprofit, or maybe it's
Yeah.
a medical industry. We're not closed off to those others, but those are our main three focuses right now, and expanding that into more of the Texas market.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read the news much, but Texas is a very growing and healthy economy, and
Yeah.
so even though it's large and vast, we've intentionally focused on Texas right now. And then as that grows, but we have customers outside of Texas as well, that have headquarters outside of Texas.
Yeah.
But Texas is just a good focus footprint, connecting with the Texas ideology. I didn't grow up in Texas. I was born in Mississippi, but Texans have a very specific ideology and way that they carry themselves, which I love. That's why
Yeah.
I'm here. But we find that we connect well with that spirit.
Yeah. Well, it's you said something that I think is really important. You're focusing on those verticals, but you still get people that reach out to you that aren't in those verticals. And
Mhm.
when that happens, you can choose whether they're a good fit or not. But the thing that is so important about, in my opinion, about focusing is, man, we can't target broadly with our marketing and our sales efforts. It's just
Mhm.
it's not effective, right? Because
Yeah.
it becomes very difficult to determine where you need to be. It becomes difficult to create a message that's going to be specific enough to resonate and
Mhm.
attract those people. Um, but just because you focus doesn't mean that you're not going to get other business. It
Yeah.
happens, but we've got to make our marketing more effective and increase return on investment. We've got to focus. And so you guys have chosen to focus on these verticals. And I love the fact that you're looking at your existing client base to determine that, right? You've looked at it and
Mhm.
you're like, hey, we got a number of clients in these three verticals. And that gives you guys the ability as you expand to leverage that, right? You can leverage testimonials, case
Yeah.
studies from
Yeah.
specific verticals, so that
Mhm.
as you do your marketing efforts, you've got social proof and credibility that you can leverage into those markets. So
Yeah.
um, I love that, and
And
I
I
think
think
it's
another
it's
reason to
great.
focus on certain industries is each industry has its own vernacular, its own acronyms
Yes,
and requirements that come around it. And so,
yeah,
for instance, we had a couple of opportunities that were around CMMC compliance. And we can do it. We know how it works, and we know how to do that. But we just said, is this really our focus? Is this really
mm,
what's most important to us? What would we have to change in our business to really be successful in that? And so in those specific cases, we said, and we're honest with them, hey, this isn't a focus area for us. It's not a specialty area.
yeah,
And they kind of scratch their heads. That's weird because we'd love to work with you guys, but you just say, no, this is really you. I feel you have to make those intentional decisions
yeah,
of who you want to be and who you want to be serving. Because sometimes those distractions and those easy money pursuits, they don't really take you where you want to go.
yeah. We have a client right now that we're working with who we go to me, everything with marketing starts with your target market and your ideal clients. And we kind of went through this process where we're looking at what do your existing clients look like? Who are the ideal ones? And for them, one of the industries that they wanted to start focusing on was architecture. And
Mm,
they hadn't he had ended up having a sales conversation with a potential client that was an architect. And
yeah.
the feedback coming out of the meeting was exactly what you touched on, right? Because they're able to talk about some of the common systems that architects use in their business,
Hmm.
right? and
Yeah.
and that terminology, and just talking about those things shows that you have experience, right? You've got credibility, and it resonates with them because they're all of a sudden they're like, okay, like they get us, right? They know our
Yeah.
systems. And you can't do that unless you focus on those people and you really understand their business and what they do.
Yeah, I agree. And there's cases where you may want to go into a new market that you don't have anymore that's
Yeah,
important. And so sometimes getting that first sale, because they say, well, how many other XYZ do you support? You say, well, you're the first actually.
yeah,
So, but again, if you feel that's an important step, maybe you have special incentives or some type of special deal for that first customer in that industry, that to then grow that platform. You just have to be intentional that that is an industry that you're passionate about. So I
yeah,
I think one of the things about these focuses too is we get excited about these companies. So my dad's a diesel mechanic by trade, and so when we go in and support our energy customers and their trucking systems and the mechanical componentry, I connect with it and I get it because I know it, right? So just you have to find those things that you're passionate about and naturally curious.
yeah. So I wanna talk a little bit about marketing. We we kind of have to. I know you had mentioned to me that you guys have tried outsourcing lead gen multiple times.
Mhm.
Didn't have a whole lot of luck. What? And by the way, you're not in a boat by yourself there. It
Oh,
happens
really?
all
I
the
thought I
time.
was the only one that ever happened to.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Um, what did you learn from those experiences?
Yeah, we've tried a few different things. We've tried. an email only campaign company. And it's funny because I a lot of times will buy marketing solutions based on things I've that have interacted with me. So it's like, okay, if they can get to me and it's curious, maybe
Right.
that would be curious for others. Didn't have a lot of fruit from that. We've tried, when we were even a little bit smaller of an organization, an outside salesperson that was dedicated. And I think for our business and the methodology we follow, we find that owner-led sales is just a lot more effective,
Yeah.
because you have that built-in belief and you have that repertoire behind you. And because we're not really selling a service, we're selling an experience and an outcome. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to come in and teach someone how to do that. So we experimented with that before, and some of our peers are focusing a lot on inside sales process of dialing,
Yeah.
and I think there's a point where that makes sense, right, in a company. But right now, our current focus is around what we're calling centers of influence, so people that have
Yeah.
common customers and they're in those areas already, and then finding creative ways to interact with our prospects, um, and give them some type of value where it doesn't feel like a sales transaction.
Yeah.
So that, but yeah, our experience has not been great. There's never been a hey, wow, that was incredible. We can track all of our success back to this one vendor or this
Yeah.
one process. Um, yeah, that's what we found.
But so there's a few things that I think are valuable from what you just shared. One, just because you guys did these things and they didn't work, you didn't stop, right? You're continuing to evolve and iterate what you're doing,
Yeah,
which I think
yeah,
is really important because there are people that we come across who are like, oh, I did marketing, but it doesn't work, right? And it's like,
mm,
no, it works, but something was off, right? And
yeah, yeah,
when you guys have, this goes back to one of those values you guys have of grit, right? Just because you hit a stumbling block doesn't mean you just throw up your hands and say it doesn't work.
sure,
You keep iterating, right? And
yeah,
a lot of the things that we do from a marketing standpoint are not going to work. We're testing, right? We're
mhm,
testing, we're measuring, and we're learning. And that's a constant cycle where we just, okay, we learned this, now this is what we're going to test next, right? And we're
yeah,
going to measure it and see whether it works. We learn and then we just keep going.
yeah,
And it's putting those things out there helps us get to that place where we do figure out, okay, hey, this thing or this thing is really working well for us, and now we can start to double down on that.
yeah.
um
I
and
think we've
so
had the greatest
I like that.
success and the longest term commitment to organic content
Yeah.
on our website, and having like a social presence, but it's interactive and meaningful. And so I think, again, yeah, like we've always had a web focus in SEO and web at display advertising. That's been consistent. But I think in our industry and what we found is that organic content really has a longer return on investment than
Yeah.
some of those one-offs. So like we did billboards in our local market during COVID. We did it for a couple of years, and so it helped give brand identity. So people, you'd walk in and someone would see the Toller logo on your shirt. It doesn't even say what we do, but they know our brand so well. They know what we're about, and they
Yeah.
know our unique differentiator. And so that's helpful. But what we found is that we couldn't trace any lead or anything that we'd close back to a billboard.
Yeah.
You know,
Directly back.
now it may be some brand awareness and people talking about it, but we decided to pause that. But having wrapped vehicles, that has a long-term return on brand awareness and penetration,
Yeah.
which we have. So yeah, you're right. You just have to experiment and try, and know that not everything's going to work, but you have to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So what are you most excited about with Toller at this point?
So in the last 6 months, we've started implementing EOS, which is the entrepreneurial operating system,
Yep.
and it's been awesome. I like to read a lot of books, and so I read books about EOS and heard about it, and we decided to actually hire a professional implementer to walk us through this journey. And in the last 6 months, we've changed our leadership team structure, we've changed our core values, we've changed our org chart, given clear accountability to each role and who's a part of that, and just seen a lot of fruit from that. And a lot of clarity and getting the team excited. This last month, we gave them our 10-year vision. In 10 years, this is what our company is going to look like. And this is what we're going to be doing. This is how many team members we're going to have. And oh, by the way, in this next year, this is what we're going to look like. And this is the first step to that 10-year vision. So a lot of really exciting things around that. I think the thing that be a little bit nervous about that is that when you have more focus and more accountability, you have to really work to create those outcomes.
Yeah.
If you're doing everything and you're really busy and hurried and you feel like you're getting a lot done, you go home and like, oh man, I worked a lot today. But what I found is in this new structure and having this focus, it really gives you that time to creatively sit down and say, okay, how are we going to accomplish these goals and how are we
Yeah.
going to go acquire new customers? And so it's exciting and neat, but at the same time, you have to know, okay, it's on me. Like I have a rock for this quarter on, the amount of revenue tied to new customers I'm going to bring in. I have to hit that. So
Yeah.
what am I going to do and what things are going to happen to reach that goal?
Yeah, I love it. Philip, I really appreciate you taking the time. I want to ask you one last question before we wrap, which is,
Yeah.
knowing what you know now, is there anything you would do differently?
I think we would have made more intentional people decisions. We from the beginning had our core values that were set, and we've kept those up until this last year. They still exist in our culture. We didn't throw them out, but I think at times we made hires that didn't align with our core value and our culture, and it took us longer than what we realized to spot that was a mishire. And so, just really trying to be intentional on bringing on the right people and the right fit, and creating that environment for them to succeed. I think if we had done that better, we probably would have a little bit more momentum. But sometimes the way you have to learn is through that pain, right? Through
That's
those
it.
experiences. But we're a lot more intentional now on the people we bring on. So analyzing them through a disc assessment, analyzing them to the role that they have, doing trial work with us, really testing to see if they're a good fit for our culture. And we've had better success in that route than we've had in the past. And so that's something I feel like we're getting better at that. You can always improve as an organization, but I think right now we have the best team as far as culture and alignment to our values and the grit and the excitement that they have to take care of our companies that we support. And so, yeah, I think the people component is what I would focus more on early.
Love it. If people want to connect with you, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so they can go to gotoller.com is our website, or you can also find us on LinkedIn, search for Toller Systems, or you can also find me on LinkedIn as well. Happy to interact with you there.
Awesome. So connect with Philip. Head over to gotoller.com. Again, Philip, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you sharing, your experience and your journey. I think there's plenty of great learning lessons for people to take away from that. So thank you for doing that. For those of you that are watching, listening, appreciate you as well. If you want to connect with us, you can do that over at rialtomarketing.com. The other resource we've got for you is over at revenueroadblockscorecard.com. So if you want to know which of the 9 revenue roadblocks are slowing down your growth, you can do that in less than 5 minutes there. So head on over there, check it out. And until next time, take care.